gave that fuck pieces of my soul, Adriana.
You're a better man than he is, a better person.
Oh my God, what are we gonna do?
That's the guy, Adriana. My Uncle Tony. The guy I'm going to hell for.
For a long time, Christopher and Adriana feel like two people trying to build a normal life with poisoned materials. They talk about marriage, they talk about kids, they talk about clubs, music, movies, houses, the future, all the little things people use when they are trying to pretend tomorrow belongs to them. And the sad thing is, Adriana really does believe in that future. She believes in Christopher more than almost anyone else does. She sees the damage in him, the drugs, the anger, the weakness, the way he keeps getting pulled back into Tony's world, and still some part of her keeps waiting for the better version to finally stay. Christopher has his own version of the dream too. He wants to be rich and respected. He wants to be a writer, a gangster, and a husband. He wants to be the movie guy and Tony's favorite, everything at once. And Adriana is the one person who keeps looking at that mess and treating it like there is still a man inside it worth saving. But Christopher loves her too, because if he never loved her, this would be simple. If Adriana was only some girlfriend he dragged along while he chased the mob, then the ending would still be sad, but it would be easier to understand. The problem is that he really does love her. You can see it in the way he talks about their future like it is something he can almost touch. You can see it in the way he needs her beside him, even when he is destroying the room around her. Adriana is home for him in a life where almost everything else feels like a test he keeps failing. But Christopher's love is trapped inside Christopher. So it comes out wrong. It comes out mixed with control, insecurity, jealousy, addiction, and all the things he never learned how to carry without throwing them at somebody else. And Adriana keeps staying because she thinks the love underneath all of that can still win. She thinks if Christopher could just get clean, if Tony would just stop pulling him back, if the life would just loosen its grip for a second, then maybe the man she loves could finally become the man he keeps promising her he wants to be. That is the dream they are both living inside. Adriana sees a future where love saves him. Christopher sees a future where the mob finally rewards him, and neither of them understands yet that those two futures are moving in opposite directions. We are about to see a man sacrifice the love of his life for a family that only knows how to use him, for a future that keeps shrinking every time he reaches for it, and for a life that is already killing him long before he understands it. It starts with a camera outside the Crazy Horse, and the footage itself is almost nothing. Adriana locks up the club, she takes out the garbage, then she stops, turns around, and brings the bag back inside. That does not prove a murder or what was in the bag. It does not prove Adriana knew every part of what happened. But it proves something much more useful to the FBI. It proves she was scared and looking suspicious. And when they bring her in, that is the part they press on. They sit her down and show her the video, because they know she can fill in the blanks better than they can. They do not need to explain the whole night to her. They just need to put that image in front of her and let her own panic start doing the work. Then they add the name. A dead man that has the Crazy Horse stamp on his hand, which means he was inside and is connected to the club she owns. Adriana tries to hold the line.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know him.
But she is already saying it from a place of fear, and the FBI can hear that. They know the footage has touched the right nerve, so they keep talking like the case is already complete, like the room is only waiting for Adriana to stop pretending. Then they ask,
"Do you really think we have you in here because we don't know what's in that garbage bag?"
That line is the trap. Because they are speaking with certainty they have not fully earned yet. They do not show her the bag. They do not lay out every piece. They just make her feel like the whole story is already sitting on the table, and Adriana reacts like a person who believes the door has closed behind her. She says,
I didn't do nothing.
And that line tells you where her head is. She is thinking about morality while they are thinking about leverage. In Adriana's mind, she did not kill anyone. And that is true because in reality, it's not like she planned it or wanted that man dead. She got pulled into something ugly, panicked, and tried to survive the next 10 minutes. But the FBI is not asking whether she is a killer. They are showing her how close they can put her to one. So when the scene gives us the flashback, it feels even worse, because Adriana's weakness is right there in the middle of it. She lets Matouche use the office. She worries Christopher will find out. She tries to help without understanding how fast helping can become involvement. Once she starts talking, the FBI finally gets what the camera could never give them by itself. She tells them about Matouche, the office, the stabbing, the cleanup, the body being moved. The footage opened the wound, but Adriana's fear gives them the story. Then they put the number in front of her.
you were looking down the barrel at 25 years.
And now the room becomes impossible to breathe in. Adriana thought she had been cooperating. License plates, small details, scraps of information, whatever she could give without feeling like she had fully crossed the line. But the line keeps moving.
Tony Soprano on tape. Your boyfriend, too.
No!
And the second Christopher enters the conversation, her fear changes shape. Because prison is terrifying, but Christopher is the place where all of this becomes unbearable. If she talks, she loses him. If she stays quiet, she may lose her whole life. If she tells him, she has to trust that the man she loves can survive the truth. The FBI understands that better than she does. They know Christopher is the door. So by the end of this scene, Adriana is no longer being questioned like someone with options. She is being manipulated by the FBI toward the only fantasy she has left.
It's not too late to have a future, Aid. There are other options. You're young, you love each other, you both have your health.
Now Adriana has to tell Christopher. Christopher is waiting for her, angry, paranoid, because his girlfriend has been missing for hours. Adriana walks in looking exhausted, almost emptied out, and he immediately wants to know where she has been. She says,
Christopher, we need to talk.
He does not let her have that sentence. That is the first wall she has to get through. Because Adriana is walking in with the worst secret of her life, and Christopher is still hearing it like boyfriend trouble. His mind goes to another man first.
Tell you though.
It's that fucking Bobby DeMarco?
I cannot really blame him in this moment. If your girlfriend is missing for 8+ hours, the first thing that comes to your mind is not snitching. But Adriana is carrying something much worse than that. She tells him she was arrested. And already Christopher starts trying to place the story somewhere he can understand.
For what? What are you talking about?
Then she brings up Danielle. Danielle was not some stranger to Adriana. She was a friend. Somebody Adriana let close. Somebody who sat inside her life, learned her habits, watched her relationship, and waited for the moment it could be used.
Yeah,
She set you up?
And Adriana gives him the real answer.
he was an FBI agent, Christopher.
After that, the silence does more than the dialogue. Christopher sits there, and you can almost see his mind moving through every room of his life at once. Every conversation Adriana might have heard. Every time she was near something she should not have been near. Adriana keeps talking because she needs him to understand the intention before he judges the damage.
They wanted to arrest you too, Christopher. I was just trying to protect you.
That is her defense. In her mind, everything started as protection. She did not walk into this wanting to betray him. She was scared, alone, cornered, and the FBI put Christopher in the middle of every threat until cooperation started to feel like the only way to keep him safe. So she says she was trying to protect him. She says they only wanted information. She says she did not tell them anything important.
I didn't tell them nothing. I swear to God. I just license plates, some other stupid shit.
Adriana still thinks there is a version of this confession where the smallness of what she gave matters. To Christopher, the line was crossed the second the FBI was mentioned. Then she says they wanted her to wear a wire, and she would not do it. That is the last piece of loyalty she can hand him. She is basically saying, I was scared, I was stupid, I was trapped, but I still would not put a wire on you. And for a second, you can feel her reaching for the Christopher who loves her. The Christopher who might see the difference between panic and betrayal. The Christopher who might understand that she has been drowning this whole time. But Christopher is no longer listening to a girlfriend confessing a mistake. He is listening to the mob's worst nightmare sitting on his couch in a robe. And then he goes for her throat. It is horrible because the violence arrives so fast, but it also does not feel random. Christopher's whole world has just collapsed into one instinct. Stop and punish this. Make the panic go somewhere. But even while he is choking her, the first thing he says after is,
Did you know that?
Not you. We. That tells you he understands the shape of it immediately. Adriana's secret has already swallowed both of them. If Tony finds out, she is dead. If the FBI keeps pushing, he is trapped. If he goes with her, his whole identity disappears. If he stays, the woman he loves becomes the problem. Then he asks,
How could you fucking do this to us?
He does not see this as Adriana being hunted for a year, slowly broken down, manipulated, threatened, pushed into a corner by people who knew exactly how vulnerable she was. He hears it as something done to them, their future and trust, their apartment, their little poison dream. And when he says,
I fucking loved you.
She is still right there in front of him, crying, apologizing, trying to hold on to him. But some part of Christopher is already grieving her like she has crossed into a place he cannot bring her back from. Then he breaks. The anger drains out and the fear takes over.
Oh my God, what are we gonna do?
That is the moment where they finally look like two children sitting inside a disaster that got too big for them. They hold each other, and for a few seconds, the scene almost lets you believe love might still be enough. Adriana is crying into him. Christopher is sobbing. Neither of them looks like a gangster or an informant or a witness. They look like two people who just realized the world outside their apartment has already decided what their love is worth. Adriana tells him because she still believes there is a way for them to survive together. Christopher holds her because he loves her, but the hug is already contaminated by the choice coming next. Because now Christopher knows the truth, and the truth is asking him to pick a life. In the next scene, it almost looks like Christopher is going to choose her. Because after all the screaming and the panic, the room gets quiet enough for a future to enter it again. They are sitting there in the wreckage of the confession, and Adriana starts doing the only thing she can still do. She tries to give Christopher a picture, somewhere far enough away that Tony's voice cannot reach the room, and Christopher lets himself look at it for a second. He says they could live someplace like that.
You can start writing again.
And that line goes right into the softest part of him, because the writing was always the version of Christopher that wanted a life outside the crew without fully leaving the crew. The part of him that wanted to be seen as more than Tony's nephew, more than the guy getting sent on errands, more than another angry soldier waiting for approval.
I could do my memoirs finally.
Even in the fantasy of escape, Christopher is still trying to bring the old life with him. That is the first little warning. Adriana is imagining freedom. Christopher is imagining turning the mob into a story he can still own.
We could never come back here, Adriana.
He is testing the walls of the fantasy now. At first, running sounds like love. It sounds like the two of them choosing each other after everything tried to split them apart. Then Christopher starts touching the edges of it and realizing what it would actually cost. Never being Christopher Moltisanti in the only world where that name means something. Adriana says,
I don't want to come back. I just want you.
That is the whole difference between them in one line. For Adriana, leaving means keeping Christopher. For Christopher, leaving means losing almost everything that made him feel real. And he keeps testing it. He tells her she could never see her mother again. That sounds like concern for her, and maybe part of it is. But it is also Christopher starting to measure the sacrifice out loud. He is putting weight onto the dream, one piece at a time, waiting to see if it still holds. Adriana keeps choosing him. She is ready to lose the place, the life, even her own mother, because in her mind, Christopher is the thing worth saving. Christopher sits there with that dream in front of him, and you can feel how badly he wants it to be enough. He loves her. He is not pretending in this moment. When he looks at her, when he softens, when he lets the idea live for a few seconds, you can see the part of him that really does want to run. Then his body starts pulling away before his words fully admit it. He says he needs to clear his head, and Adriana feels the danger immediately. She asks him to stay. She offers him her cigarettes. She tries to keep him in the room because some part of her understands that as long as Christopher is sitting there with her, the dream is still alive. The second he walks out, the world gets a vote again. So when he says, "I'll be right back," it lands in the worst way, because it sounds like comfort, but it also sounds like distance. Then he tells her he loves her, and she says it back. For Adriana, that is still the promise. For Christopher, it is already tangled with the decision he cannot make in front of her. He walks out looking like a man who has almost chosen love, but almost is the most dangerous place this relationship ever reaches. Because now Christopher has seen the future Adriana is offering him. The next thing he has to see is the future he thinks it will cost him. But still, this is not where he decided yet, without knowing he just saw the love of his life for the last time here. The next scene is where he finally decides. This is the moment where the decision really happens. Christopher steps outside and sees the version of life that Dream would actually ask from him. A tired family with a cheap car, a man standing there with groceries and no power in his face. He just looks at them, and the whole fantasy starts draining out of his face. Because this is what witness protection looks like to him. Just some regular man at a gas station, carrying bags, managing kids, getting through the day, completely invisible to the world around him. And Christopher cannot survive that image. He can imagine loving Adriana. He can imagine saying they will leave. But when the life is finally placed in front of him, it looks smaller than anything he ever feared. That family becomes a mirror he does not want to recognize. A future where nobody cares who he used to be. Christopher was never only choosing between Adriana and Tony. He was choosing between Adriana and the version of himself the mob allowed him to believe in. The mob made him miserable. But it also gave him a name. It gave him a place to stand. It gave him the feeling that someday he might become somebody. And at that gas station, he sees the price of leaving all of that behind. He sees that family and understands what running really means. He would live. But Christopher Moltisanti would disappear. And by the time he gets back in the car, the choice is already moving through him. He chooses the mob because without it, he has no idea who he is. And what happens next, everyone knows. I have covered it in my Adriana video, Christopher tells Tony. Tony sets Adriana up with Silvio, and the woman who was just sitting across from him, begging him to leave with her, ends up in a car headed toward the woods, still believing for a few more seconds that Christopher is somewhere alive and waiting for her. Christopher does not just choose the mob over Adriana. He hands the mob the one person who trusted him completely. Adriana becomes the ghost that follows every room he walks into after this. Nobody says her name out loud for what she really was. Nobody treats her death like the price Christopher paid to stay there. To the crew, she becomes a problem that got solved, a loose end. A thing nobody wants to talk about because talking about it would mean admitting what they asked him to give up. But for Christopher, that sacrifice never leaves. He gave up the love of his life for people who still looked at him like a joke. People who laughed at him, doubted him, used him, and eventually threw him away with the same coldness they used on her. He trades the only person who still saw something good in him for a room full of men who would never stop seeing the weakness first. And after Adriana is gone, Christopher keeps living, but there is something dead in the way he lives. Adriana was the door out. She was messy, scared, and imperfect, but she was still the one person offering him a life where he could maybe become something else. And Christopher looked at that door, saw what it would cost him, and ran back to the cage. He thought he was choosing the only family that made him somebody. But all he really did was hand over the only person who still saw somebody in him. Christopher thought leaving with Adriana would erase him. So he stayed. And staying erased him anyway.